Done.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session of Let Us Talk It webinar. Thank you to each one of you who take out time every week to join us and listen, learn, and grow together. We as a community, we do this as a knowledge sharing platform, and we hope all those who have joined earlier or will be joining will benefit some way or the other. Every week we try to bring in new topics, new old topics, but new outlook with new speakers. So we are trying to do our bit for the community, and we hope that if you can join hands and help us reach out to more people, that would be a great thing that you can do for the community as a whole. So yes, about Let Us Talk It, we do it every week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are our professional webinars on work and life, which deals from HR to health to anything you can say. So please, if you have any ideas or new ideas, we always welcome that. And if you can join, email us at webinar@letustalkit.com and let us know about your viewpoints, feedback, please do so. All those who have joined on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, please do leave us comments. We'll take it at the end of the session. Those who are joining us on Zoom, please put your questions in the chat section or the question answer section, and we'll take it at the end of the section as well. So we do our youth webinars. Let Us Talk It Youth webinars. This week we have two webinars, one for little youths, very smart ones, that is on Friday to the tomorrow, 9 to 10 p.m. EST, and another youth webinar on election with the older kids, that's from 4 to 5 p.m. EST. With that, we begin today's webinar, and today's topic is very unusual. It is launch your product using Toyota Production System, TPS, in software industry. Strategies to reduce time and cost, gain high quality and productivity using this TPS system. And we have a unique presenter also, our guest speaker today, Shovan Panda, with over 20 years of experience in IT industry in top organizations like Infosys and Saskin. He has worked with Fortune 100 clients in manufacturing, financial securities, retail, CPG, railroad, and logistics sector. And he's also the CEO of Magnusteen Holdings, a niche entity in sales and marketing for a real estate sector, and co-founder of 100 Crore Club, India's fastest growing business mastermind of entrepreneurial community. He's a startup mentor, professional coach, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, angel investor as well. And he is also a mentor at IIM Udaipur Incubation Center and a product leadership coach at the Institute of Product Leadership. And he is already mentoring close to 20 startups. And he is a trainer for Toyota Production System, design thinking, sales and marketing strategies, company valuation, fundamental analysis, and technical analysis for stock market. If that was not enough, he is also the author of an upcoming book, Unleash Your Potential and Break Free. But the best of all, the profile which I have gone through is his mantra, which is success is a decision. Cannot agree with you more, Shovan. Wonderful to have you. Absolutely honored to have you. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Julan. It's my pleasure to talking to all of you. So let me share the screen to talk about today's topic. Yeah. Okay. So what we are going to discuss today is very different from what you would have heard. So we are trying to understand how I can launch my product into the market in the shortest period of time, and where you have very high productivity and efficiency, and most importantly the quality has to be very high. And the question that comes is it possible? Can we really make something like that happen? Can we do something like this? Because we have heard about so many different methodologies which are there, like agile is there, agile scrum methodology is there, and you have your regular typical waterfall model. So many models are there, but do we really, can we really do that? Can we really ensure that we have good productivity, good efficiency? Time to market is very shortened, extremely low, as well as the quality is very, very high. And can we still do it? Can we still crack it? And this is the typical challenge which is faced by most of the companies, most of the startups, because either you are not able to manage your time, or you are not able to manage the investment that you have spent or you have to spend on your company. And always there is a delay in your product launch. So what I would do is I also talk it as a leadership success strategy, because if you understand this topic well, nobody can stop you from moving fast in your journey of leadership. And that's why I call it as a leadership success strategy. So what we are going to do is we are going to move to the next slide. So what we are going to discuss today is typical business challenges which most of the companies face. We are going to talk about the relationship between time to market, cost, quality, and productivity. I'm going to burst some of the myths. What are the ways in which I will be able to identify the right problems and then find solutions for those problems? And of course, towards the end, we'll talk about the implementation of Toyota production system. So let's not worry about the word Toyota production system, TPS. I'll give you the story behind that. But before that, so typically, if we talk about any company, any startup, now I have listed down all the possible business challenges which leaders, as a leader, as a CEO, you are going to face. And this is very, very common. You have to always continuously keep on improving. That is, in any kind of an environment in the VUCA world, in the highly competitive and complex environment, you have to still keep on improving. And then when we talk about improvement, can I optimize my cost? Can I do workforce optimization? Can you still ensure that your people are motivated? How do I reduce my cycle time? Can I improve my profitability or the EBITDA? And these are the typical goals which every leader, every CEO in the organization has it. How can I realize my product goals? How can I ensure that the knowledge management is happening so well that I don't waste time and my team members are more productive, much more productive? How can I define what are the different metrics like effort? How can you track your effort? How can you track your schedule? And most importantly, how can I make it first time right? Because moment you are not doing first time right, which means you are spending more time on fixing the issues, fixing the challenges. It could be anything. And most importantly is you are ensuring high quality and reduction of cost and time, and still you can launch your product in the market in the shortest period of time. So these are the typical business challenges which everybody face, and I'm sure you would be able to relate to at least one or two of, or more than one of these challenges, definitely, because this is what your drives your KPIs or your OKRs are coming from all of these typical metrics that we are responsible for. So how do we solve this? How do we make sure that it works? So let's talk about you know relationship between time to market, cost, quality, and productivity. Now moment we say that we will focus on quality and productivity, automatically my cost will go up. And that is what we all understand. And typically, your time to market may also get elongated. So higher the productivity, lower the cost, that we know already. But how do I ensure that? So which means what are the different levers I can use? So many times you can have your on-site offshore ratio can be optimized. You can have different type of roles and responsibility in your team. We can do cross training, and we can do reduction of your people, your full-time equivalent, your FT reduction. This can be done. But let us understand what are the different myths that we all go through. Moment we focus on quality, it will impact my productivity. which means I have to spend more. The cost will go up. The frameworks, tools, if I follow the processes, automatically it will lead to delay in my release because I have to follow the process. This is the typical understanding that we all have. And most important, the myth number 3 is your quality and productivity cannot be achieved together. So this is again another understanding or challenge that we face, that can we still manage both quality and productivity together? Now, what I have done is, I'll give you a story that I went to Toyota Kirloskar Motors in Bangalore, in Bidadi, and try to understand how do they manage all of these things, all the challenges that we discussed in this slide. How do they manage each of these challenges in a manufacturing setup, and how are they able to achieve higher quality and productivity at the same time without spending too much of money, as well as without spending too much of time? How they are able to manage the whole thing? So there is a concept in manufacturing setup which is called as the takt time. Now takt time is nothing but from the time your first vehicle comes into the production line and the second vehicle enters into the production line. So, what is the time difference between these two? Your first vehicle coming to your production line and the second vehicle entering into the production line. So, this time is called a stack time. And this is one of the very important metric which is measured in a manufacturing setup in an assembly line. And if we delay, if there is any challenge with respect to the assembly line, the takt time becomes longer, which means the number of production that will happen per day, number of cars which will come out of your assembly line, that will drop, that will reduce. So we know that manufacturing processes are so very efficient. And how do I ensure that I learn something from a manufacturing industry and bring that into the software industry, bring that into our startups, bring that into whatever we are doing? So can we learn something from there and bring it? So for that particular reason, I went to TKM Motors and try to understand as to how do they ensure that the takt time is always intact. So the story goes like this: we went to the Toyota production plant, and the a floor manager, he was taking us through the entire assembly line and showing us as to what is happening. I will give you certain examples that the assembly line is moving. The car which is still not complete, doors are not fixed. It is just the machine which is there. So the doors have to be fixed. There are so many nuts and bolts which has to be fixed. The engine has to be fixed, and the assembly line is moving. It is moving. Now imagine that some screw has to be fixed. So what will the person do? Typically, that person will go back to the place where all the screws are kept, screws and nuts and bolts are kept. He will come back to the car and he will fix it. By that time, the car would have moved little further in the assembly line. So he has to go ahead further, and he has to keep doing it, this back and forth work. So in order to make sure that they save a lot of time, what they have done, the toolbox, everything is part of the assembly box. The person is standing there and he is fixing while the car is moving, which means we are managing the takt time, which is from the time the car enters, the first car to the second car enter into the assembly line, into the production line. That time cannot be elongated. So how do we save time? How do we ensure that everything happens while the work is happening in the assembly line? And that is what I saw. It was so amazing there that I was taking a lot of interviews there to understand how do they ensure that the takt time is always, it will be fixed. And if it is 2 to 5 minutes, let's say the takt time is 2 to 5 minutes, how this can be fixed and this will not change. So in the floor, there was on the top there was a bulb, there was a red color bulb, and the floor manager was explaining to me that when something goes wrong, moment the assembly line stops, the bulb starts glowing immediately, and everybody will stop the work in the floor. They will come to that particular point. It will also indicate which particular point in the assembly line is having a challenge, and everybody will come there and fix it immediately, then and there. They will fix everything because they have to measure this metrics called as takt time, which is the number of cars which is coming out every single day, that cannot drop. So everybody will rush to that particular point and they know exactly where the problem is, and that will get fixed immediately. And the car will continue to get into the assembly line. The production will continue, everything will move. And that was so fascinating. That was so nice to understand that, they are able to manage it so well. Now coming to, I started asking, what are the different challenges that you have faced in the manufacturing setup. And I got so many examples. The people were telling there that earlier we fixed the door, and then we realized that if we fix the door, then we have to open the door and do some work on the dashboard. Then we have to keep opening the door. Then we decided that the door will be fixed towards the end. So they are actually ensuring that they are saving time. They are becoming efficient, more and more efficient. They are becoming. So that is another aspect which I learned there. There are some more examples, like in the oil chamber. The oil chamber had a leak, and this was one of the example which was told to me. The oil chamber had a leak, and they, how do they figure out that the leakage can be avoided, or they get to know much earlier. So they had also put a weight sensor there to say that when the oil is being filled, it will exactly tell. And if there is a leakage, which means the weight will go down of the unit which is filling the oil. And that's how they will get to know that there is a challenge there. So these are all which is followed in Toyota plant, is coming through something called as Toyota production system. So let me take you to that particular thing. I will take you to that. So how do we avoid any kind of challenges, challenges? The first step is to identify your goals. What is your business goal? What is your product goals? Or what is your team goals? List down all the different goals that you want to track as a CEO, as a founder of your company. You have to list down all the different goals, because many times we do not have the right goal. We do not have the destination. We don't know where we are heading into. And then post we have identified the goal. This second step, which is not followed in many companies, which is list down all the possible problems, every problem that you can think of, that you can anticipate. Every problem has to be listed down. It could be related to the company, it could be related to the team, it could be related to the systems that is in place, it could be your own problems, it could be an individual problem. Every problem has to be listed down completely. And how do we list down? If I have to achieve a particular goal, then I want to ensure that all the problems are listed down. And if I solve all these problems, I'm sure that I will be able to hit my goal. And with that intent, with that thought process, I have to list down each and every goal, each and every problem which can stop me to achieve my goal. So I will list down everything. And this is a very important exercise, which very important step as an organization, as a team, as a startup we have to do, which means we shy away from listing down the problems. We always avoid problems. We have to go from the mentality of not avoiding the problem, but identification and anticipating the problems upfront, and in a recurring fashion. Every time we have to keep identifying what are the different problems which are there. And another aspect is, once we have identified the problem, we have to do the root cause analysis. That how do I fix the problem now? The only way to fix the problem is to find out the root cause. If productivity could be a problem, there could be delay in achieving the goal. Then if that is the problem, why there will be a delay? What is the root cause? What can happen? What can be done to make sure that this can be fixed? So we go to the why analysis. And there is a very important insight that I have seen, is that most of the root cause will finally end up into one of these four, which is, what are the lessons that I have learned? What could be, there could be problem related to interpersonal relationship or conflicts between the teams, between people. The problem, the root cause will be a conflict or a relationship issue between multiple people, or there could be problem related to the existing system which is there in place, or there could be related to a competency, low competency in the team. So finally, every problem that you list down, when you go to the why analysis, when you do the root cause analysis, typically it will land in one of these four always. In majority of the cases, it will land there. And it is easy. Once we know which particular competency has to be fixed, or what are the challenges which are there within the organization, within the different teams, once we understand this, it is easy for us to fix it. So what we have learned till now is that first is identification. If you have to launch the product quickly into the market, we need to first have a goal. We need to ensure that we understand that goal. The entire culture of the organization, everybody in the team understands what are the business and the product goals. That is step number one. Second is we need to understand what all challenges that can come in the way, which will stop me from achieving that particular goal. And now, in order to fix those challenges, what could be the solutions, what could be the strategies? And for that, we need to go and do the root cause analysis. And most of it will fall into these four categories. And this is a very, 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 very important step. If you're able to do this, you would have identified the majority of the reasons because of which your product may not launch on time. And once you have identified this early, it is easier for you. And this is something which I learned from a manufacturing company, Toyota. This is what I learned from them. When I went there and I was interviewing them, and I checked with them, Toyota, in the Toyota plant, Toyota Kirloskar Motors, they told that they do this. They identify what could be the problem, what are the challenges that can be there, which can come as a hindrance between measuring and also implementing my number of cars which will come out. The takt time has to be measured. What could be the problem? So they do this. They do this every time, and this is a very, very important step. Now coming to the uh, next. So how do we implement and ensure that all the metrics, all the four key metrics? So what are the four key metrics? Your quality, your productivity, time to market, and your cost. These are the typically every organization revolves around finding solutions to improve your quality, your productivity and efficiency, your reduction of your money that is going to be spent, which is your cost, and the fourth is the time which will take for you to launch the product into the market. These are the four typical metrics which every CEO is bothered about. How do I measure and improve each of these four metrics? Now, we have so many different systems. We have agile methodology, but uh, can an agile methodology ensure that these four can be measured as well as it can be tracked? Because one of these things goes down, then automatically your things get delayed. You'll start spending more money. The rework will start increasing. So how do we ensure these four? And what I learned is that Toyota production system, the processes which are followed in a manufacturing setup, they are able to measure these four different metrics, and they're able to you know implement, track, and improve. Most importantly, they are able to improve these four different metrics, which is your time to market, your time for production, your cost, quality, and productivity. So let us see how do they do that, and how can we relate this whole thing and convert that into the setup that we are in, which is the software industry, IT industry, or any kind of a startup that you are doing. How can you implement a manufacturing process which has a control over this and take that to our process, our systems? So let's learn that. So what is a Toyota production system? So TPS, which is called as Toyota production system, it's a framework which is practiced by Toyota and which ensures a very high quality at a less cost, and will ensure high productivity and faster time to market. It combines everything, the management philosophy, the practices, where everybody in the team is aligned to focus on these processes, and so that they can achieve a better result, better output. So what goes into a TPS? So these are the different levers. Now, in typically we talk about the levers of how do I ensure that my role ratio within the organization is optimized? How can I have more freshers, a combination of more freshers and less of experienced people, and still I can reduce the cost? That is how we typically think of reducing the cost. But these are the different levers which are typically followed in a Toyota production system in a manufacturing setup, and I will take you through each of these. The first being your Andon. Andon is called nothing but, if I do a straight translation of Andon, it is called as a signboard. You remember the example which I talked about? in the floor, in the assembly line, uh, there is something will glow, the bulb will glow moment something goes wrong, and that is nothing called as or signboard. So that is andon, that is called as andon. Now there is the second lever is called as jidoka. We'll go through each of these. Jidoka is nothing but automation. Automation, how do I automate something, how do I make sure that things are happening automatically? And it is so very relevant in a manufacturing industry. And if we can understand this and do this in an IT industry, in a startup, it becomes very relevant for us. Pokayoke, this is the third one, which is called as fail safing, to avoid any kind of errors much earlier in the life cycle. How do I avoid? Typically, our mindset could be that there is a problem which will come, and then we'll learn from that problem, and then we'll try to fix it. But Japanese, what they follow, and especially in Toyota, they follow is that fail safing, which means how do I avoid any kind of a challenge or any kind of problem that can occur. So some of these aspects we discussed of identification of all the problems, all the challenge much early in the life cycle. We discussed that in the previous slide. The fourth one is continuous improvement in English term, which is called as Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. How do I keep improving everything that we are doing? So the typical example of continuous improvement is, the door gets fixed early, and they realize that, they have to keep opening the door when they are doing some work on the dashboard or inside of the car. So they decided that, I will fix the door towards the later part of the assembly line. That is called as continuous improvement. They're learning and ensuring that they're improving again and again. And this is a very common term in the software industry, continuous improvement. Muda is very important. Muda means wastage. So how do I ensure that I avoid any kind of a wastage? Now, when we talk about in a startup scenario or in an organization, what are the wastage which can be there? Your time, your resources, your money. People are available, but they are not doing the work because they have not been assigned the right work. So all these in our terminology will be wastage. Then production smoothing, this is so very important and so very relevant for us. It's called as high junka, which means that, you know uh, in our setup, we will have some person who is highly overloaded, some person is not having enough work, and that leads to loss of productivity. So that is called as production smoothing in a typical manufacturing setup. The next one is just in time. Then Kanban. Kanban is index cards, signboards, which is there, which will help you to do things faster. Muri and Mura. Muri and Mura is, overburden and unevenness, which means somebody, there is a lot of work happening in one side, but there is a lot of unevenness in the entire operation which is there. And this is very important, which is Genchi Genbutsu, which is called as go and see for yourself. Find yourself, go to the root of the problem to identify what is the real problem. Because if we don't go to the root of the problem, then we'll never find the right problem, and hence we'll not be able to find the right solution. So these are the different levers. We are going to touch some of the very important levers. We cannot cover all of them, but we'll cover majority of them. So let us understand how can this be related. Now what we are doing is we are moving from a manufacturing setup to a startup world, to an organization that we run. So what could be the possible solutions which are there in our organization? When we talk about Andon, which is the visual control system, we can have a product or a program dashboard. We can have a dashboard which will tell us that, something is not moving, things are not functioning as it is supposed to be. Then we can have live schedulers. We can have notification management system. Automatically we have built a system which tells us, which alerts us so many different things which may go wrong. So we can have alert mechanism. We can build the entire domain and business flow charts. So this can be represented in a visual fashion, the entire domain workflow. Now, don't we think that we face this challenge when we start building our organization, when we are having the team? Not everybody has the same level of domain understanding. And what do we do to build that domain knowledge? If we have the entire domain understanding, the business flow, the charts, everything in your office. It is there pasted, or it is available somewhere where people can see it. So that gives an opportunity for improving the domain knowledge. Moment we focus on improving the domain knowledge, automatically your productivity will go up. The real-time dashboards and product owners dashboard. So if we talk about a straight correlation of Andon with a visual control system to our industry, these are the different things that we can do. Now, what is the possible waste reduction? How can I ensure that waste reduction can be managed? One is by creating awareness. Creating awareness is most important thing, and this is what I learned from a manufacturing unit. Is they understand something. Moment we have high degree of awareness, your wastage, your time will be utilized much better. Let's take an example. If we are not aware of what we are doing, we end up spending the entire day doing that one single thing, that one same thing. But my awareness level goes up significantly high. The time which is available, I know that in that particular available time I can achieve a lot more. And that is very important, to have that level of awareness. And the next one is optimization of processes and activities to arrest waste. How do I optimize? If I'm not following a process, which means everybody will start inventing something new, and that will lead to a lot of wastage. Now let's move to the third one, which is Pokayoke, which is a direct correlation, is nothing but your quality control, quality check, your defect prevention. How do I prevent any kind of flaws or errors to pass from one stage to another stage? And this is very common. This we typically follow. Moving to the next one, which is jidoka, which is automation. What are the process automation that we can do? What are the process optimizations that we can do? What are the tools that we can build? What are the reusable assets or artifacts that can be created? Now, I know many of you would have heard most of these terms, but what is most important here is that categorization of each of these into these different levers, which is very important. And second is following each of these, because moment you drop any one of these process, automatically you will spend more time, your product launch will get delayed, or you'll spend more money, and you will have more challenges, more defects, and of course the productivity will go down. So each of these have to be followed, and that is what is typically followed, because they can't afford to have the production line, they cannot afford to have the number of production drop every single day. And hence, if we understand that aspect, we can do much better. So each of these are very, very relevant, and we have to. So it's all about consistency and following each of these every single day, in every single team, every single department, and implementing this. So let's go to the implementation of it. So the tag time, what we discussed, which is the visual mechanism through Andon, it depicts any kind of an abnormality in the product, in the process, in the program, in form of visuals, so that no problem is hidden. No problem is hidden. This we need to understand this one simple and very, very important aspect. As a mindset, typically we have the mindset that I will solve the problem by myself, I will do it all by myself, I need not bother other people in my team, I can fix the problem. When I'm not able to solve it, that is when I'll go to someone. And this is the understanding, this is the typical mindset that we carry. But no, that this does not work in a Japanese setup, this does not work in a production line. Moment there is a problem, it has to be broadcasted. It is not that you have caused the problem. They don't focus on who has created the problem. That is not important here. What is important is how soon we are able to solve the problem and move fast to the next step. So which means that you know uh, we have to ensure that any kind of problem that is there, that is never hidden, and it is always available, known to people. And if we just follow this one single thing, if this can be just one simple takeaway for you, you will save a lot of time, a lot of money. Just give me a minute, I'll just put the charger. Yeah, sorry about that. So okay, so we have to ensure that we have to understand this particular mindset, that I'm not solving the problem alone. the entire team is solving the problem. And that is the key aspect here, is that we are solving the problem together. And that becomes very, very important. But how do you know that problem? How do you understand that there is a problem? Unless somebody tells, we'll not know the problem is there or not. Which means that it has to be visually depicted, it has to be broadcasted. Any kind of abnormality which is there, we have to build systems so that it gives that right alert mechanism so that people know about it. And I'll show you some of the examples. So this is the state mapping. The problem statement is improve your product performance with respect to goals, reduce any kind of slack time for the talents, quicker resolution of issues, and easier understanding of the domain. These are the four different things which can be fixed using Andon, which is the visual system. And what could be the possible solutions? Your notification management system, your live schedulers, your product dashboards, your domain charts. And I want to show you one of the very important example. This is when I implemented this TPS while I was working for Infosys. This is the Andon system, which means that everything, the quality, the productivity, the effort variance, the schedule variance, this is visually depicted. It is there on the floor. Everybody knows what is going wrong. The entire team is aware of what is the goal, what is the expected performance, and where we stand. And if we can have this level of transparency, just like we have in a manufacturing setup, your implementation, your launch of your product will be so fast, and you will see tremendous improvement in your efficiency, productivity, and you will be able to save a lot of time as well as your money. So your team members need to understand this, and this has to be regularly updated. So if we do this, it actually improves the overall performance and ensures that there will be no gaps which can be just left just like that. Moving on, I will show you one more example going forward. So let us say in a typical maintenance setup, you are doing maintenance of your some of the applications. And in that, how can we implement Andon? So what are the typical problem statements is, how do I improve my response SLA? How do I improve my resolution time? How do I have a better workload balance because so many tickets are coming, and how do you fix that? How do we ensure that we are adhering to the schedule, the performance comparisons, and how do I ensure that I'm not spending unnecessary time on creating reports, and that is already available. For that, we can have solutions like we can have response metrics, we can have resolution metrics, we can have workload indicator. As and when the tickets are coming, you can actually show that which tickets get assigned to whom and who is loaded to what level. We can have all these different dashboards, manager dashboards, your team level dashboards. You can have high alert mechanisms, and of course sharing of best practices and tips, because once we are able to share that, we will be able to improve the productivity and efficiency. So these are the two different scenarios which I have presented here. And so how can we do this? This is a simple graph for you to just relate and understand. It can be definitely improved. You can do much better than this. This is just for you to understand this. Now, what? How do we ensure a turnaround time can be achieved? Is through, again, through graphical representation, which can always be real time and keep telling you what is happening in the organization, how much time we are taking as a response time, as a resolution time, and this can be real time. This can be automated. This system can be built. Then your, requirement of the talents which you use for any kind of a production environment will automatically go down. Now, what you see on the right hand side is a picture here. You see a red bar and a green bar. So this was again implemented in one of the program. Is moment somebody sees a problem, they will put the red bar. So they will take out the green and they will put the red there in their desk, and everybody, it is easily visible to everyone. Moment you turn your head left and right, you can see where the red bar is there, in which particular section it is shown. And this is what we followed, because as a company, you have to resolve the tickets, especially the urgency one tickets, you have to resolve so fast, and you cannot afford to miss the SLAs. So moment you see the red, you everybody goes there, fix the problem, come back and starts working. If that person is not able to fix it immediately, it is alerted through this red part. So these are the typical implementations which can be done in a software setup. Moving on, you can have a 4 level entire domain chart, completely domain chart. And I know, looking at so many projects that I have implemented, unless I actually implemented this, I knew that, typically in most of the companies we don't even have this level of details. And unless we are able to communicate our domain understanding, our business process understanding, how can we expect that the productivity or efficiency will go up? So we have to implement some of these very, very important implementations. Again, this is an Andon implementation example. So let's go to the jidoka now. Next lever. So what is jidoka? So what is the typical problem statement? So daily analysis, understanding, studying of your code, running through your entire production repository. So what are the typical solutions? We can have a visio generator, we can have an analyzer, we can have a tool for mapping, and hence we'll be able to do a lot of, so what is jidoka? The possible automation which will ensure foolproofing, reduction of issues, reduction of defects, and elimination of waste. So, what are the different solutions that we can build? And unless we consciously put effort to focus on jidoka, we will not be able to do something quicker and faster. So, let's take another scenario, which is delay in regression testing or unavailability of a test data. And how do we fix it? And this is a known thing, known solution, which is having a regression testing tool, which is again an implementation of jidoka. So coming to Kaizen. Kaizen is nothing but your continuous improvement. So so I have given a mapping of the problem and the typical solution so that you can understand, take the tips from here and start implementing in your organization, in your projects, or when you are implementing your product. So non-standardized document, frequent rework, these are the typical problems. Unavailability of templates, standards, there more testing required. What we could do, we can have a pre-defined account specific standards, templates, dashboards. You can have templates for everything, for every aspect. You can have a combination of templates. You can define how you can follow some of the coding standards, follow some of the design templates, design standards, and that will help you to make sure that you are focusing on continuous improvement. Okay, okay. Let's understand this. This is fail safing, which means how do I ensure that I am fail proofing? So in software, it can be mapped to your root cause analysis, um, by using your standardized frameworks, reference implementation. You do your reference implementation and then start implementing it another time. If I relate this to a startup world, how does this work? We have to first understand the problem. Many times we think that idea is everything. No, idea is not everything. We have to understand from that idea what problem we are trying to solve for my customer segment. And we have to go and validate that particular idea, that particular problem. We think I have understood the problem. No, that does not work unless we have done customer insighting, validation, by talking to at least 50 to 100 customers, prospective customers, to understand what problem they are facing and figure out and do analytics on that to see if everybody is facing the similar problem. That is when I can come up with my solution, and I can come up with my right solution. Otherwise, you know you'll always go through this challenge, which is you have not understood the problem well, and hence you have not understood your challenge well, or the solution, you don't come up with the right solution. And hence what will happen, your final product that you build is going to be, it needs to be pulled back. It is not applicable anymore. And that is where you start building a lot of rework cycles keep on going. So reference implementation, before reference implementation, we need to have understanding of the problem, understanding of the solution. We have to do the solution market fit, we have to do the MVP or the POC, validate that with your customers, and then we have to go with the product. So creating the product is the fourth step, it is not the first step. So we have to understand that. And if we understand this well, we'll be able to build the right product or the service for our customers. So that's about Okaike. Root cause analysis. This is typical that most of us follow in organizations, but let me also bring out one of the very important fact. While we all understand that fishbone diagram, everybody would have heard it, but how many times we really follow it? Because if you follow this single simple process of identifying the root cause, you will eliminate 80% of your challenges, 80% of your problems. You will identify, you will solve it much ahead, and it will ensure your rework cycle, your cost of quality will always be much lower. So it's not about knowing something, it's about knowing and implementing it, and implementing, not just implementing it once, but implementing it consistently every time. And that is what is going to build efficiency and productivity for your products. Okay, so root cause analysis. So, what could be the typical root cause? It could be your flaw in design, it could be gaps in any kind of an interface, or your tech issue, or your architecture issue. And what could be the strategies? Strategies is to make sure that the people training is given, there is a proper validation of the whole problem is done, your domain understanding is built. We do very good design before we start building the product. So, all this will are the different strategies, and I'm sure there will be a lot more strategies for your specific for your organization, and this will automatically improve your cost of quality, you will reduce your rework, your efficiency, quality will automatically go up. You remember the myth we talked about, that we cannot achieve productivity and quality at the same time. If I'm achieving both at the same time, I have to either spend more time or I have to spend more money. But that's not the case. If you follow each of these processes, it is guaranteed that you will be able to achieve both with lesser time and lesser money. And you just try it out, you just implement it, and you will start seeing the results. Moving on. So muda, this is very important. I did a mapping, what are the different waste which are typically seen in a manufacturing setup. One is the transportation, your transportation, logistics. This is the typical waste in a manufacturing, for a manufacturing company. Your inventory management, overproduction is happening, or the inventory is lying. There is too much of motion. People are moving from one place to another place. You know, there is a waiting time. There is a lot of wait period, overproduction, overprocessing, and there are defects. So these are the seven which are typical waste which are seen in a manufacturing setup. If I do a straight mapping of this to our IT industry or the product industry, then how does this relate to us and that mapping? Your data and information movement will be the waste if it is not efficiently managed, which means that unnecessary movement of code or people into the database, it taking longer time for you to retrieve the data from the database, and that is going to have a lot of wastage. Inventory, building modules for future use, which is not applicable today, but you are building it. So that, and if you're able to relate to this, we have done so many times we build something which is not required. So we have to identify, even that is one part of it. Taking licensed softwares which are not relevant, which are not required. Upfront, we are taking licenses, and that is adding to your cost, but you are not utilizing it at the right time. People movement. Many times we change the team, we change the people. We keep adding, we keep moving people, start changing people's department, their projects, and that people movement leads to a lot of wastage because they have to again go through the cycle of learning and again understanding the domain knowledge. Or another example could be your too many meetings, too many organizational activities which are not relevant. Rather than taking action, we are spending more time on meetings, discussions, thinking, which are not relevant. Waiting for the work or task to be performed and assigned as well. So this is the fourth, which is, many times we are either waiting or we are making somebody wait to give the identified activity. Same thing in a IT services. So the middle one is the products, and the right side was in the typical IT services. So any kind of defect which is not assigned, which is still pending to be tested, these are all waiting opportunities which needs to be identified upfront. And if we do that, if we fix this, we'll be able to solve it much faster. Developing extra functionality which is not required, and doing more reviews and testing activities. Many times, we spend time on unnecessary activities which can automatically be found out when we interface or when you integrate your code or when you integrate your product. That is the time you are going to find out some of the defects, but we unnecessarily spend time on identifying more and more reviews, and that leads to over processing. That is the typical example of over processing. And defects, writing of wrong code and functionality, this is very common, which all of us know. So this, if we understand what are the possible waste which are there, which can occur in a software industry, both for a product lifecycle as well as for a IT services industry, that is, if you understand this and start fixing it, start being aware of that, these being there, and now I have to figure out ways in which I will not have this waste. Japanese and especially Toyota, they focus a lot of time to understand where all wastage can happen, and they try to fix it upfront. You know, I will give you one more example. I went to their canteen, and the chairs typically, the element of the amount of automation and reduction of waste that they have done there was phenomenal. When you go to canteen, you typically pull the chair and then you sit and then you pull the chair back. But that was also automated there. They had a spring system. You just have to sit and automatically the chair comes in the right position. So that is how they had ensured both automation and waste. So they have done at every stage, every section, every department. They have not even spared canteens for that, right? So now, if you have to implement this in your company, what are the typical steps? So first is to identify which product, which program, which product you want to implement that. First, as we discussed, we have to brainstorm your goals, your goals, and identify what are the different problem areas, what are the different challenges which can come, and list down all the possible challenges. Unless we have challenges, unless we have problems listed down, you cannot find out how I can fix with what lever, which lever is more appropriate and apt. We cannot find out. So once we have done that, we'll start doing the mapping of my problem, just like we have done. You remember in the previous slides, we have discussed about problems and the solutions. So these are the identification of the problem and then the solutions. So we have to identify the problems and then come up with the right solutions. So we have to do the mapping of the solutions and start building prototypes. Start doing step by step in a staged manner, and then deploy one solution, and then institutionalize that across in your product, in your product organization, in your department. You start institutionalizing that. So these are the steps. And what are the typical challenges that you will face if you have to implement a Toyota production system in a software setup or in a product setup? Is buy-in of all the stakeholders. This will be the typical challenge you might face, and we have to solve it together. Reluctant to change, we are facing a lot of difficulty to bring that and accept that ongoing process of change. This one thing which I learned from Japanese people is that they are always ready to change as long as it is improving their productivity, efficiency, and reducing the cost of implementation. They are always ready to accept the change and prioritization of the issues. Many times we'll have challenge with respect to abhi nahi karte hain, baad mein karte hain, let us do it later. And that also one of the reason which may stop you from implementing it. But if you have understood this, if you really want to launch your product much faster into the market, then there is no other option. We have to implement this, or if you have found a better way, you follow that. If not, then you have to follow some of these things. So benefits we have already discussed. So what we discussed in slide number 1, the typical challenge that we face: knowledge management, whether we talk about team productivity, engagement, people engagement, having so much of transparency in the whole process that people feel inclusive and part of your organization, and they're ready to always work and come up with the right suggestions, because they also start thinking, they also become innovative, and they want to come up with the right suggestions, and they are also having that thought process of continuous improvement. The moment we implement this, we are changing the culture of the organization, and once the culture of the organization is changed, obviously, automatically, you will see a tremendous improvement in everything that you are doing. So that's pretty much I had to cover, and I'm open for questions. Let's check the time, probably almost an hour. So we'll open the floor for questions. Any questions that are there, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, hi, Sovan. That's an excellent way to draw parallels between the TPS and the software industry and other aspects, including startups that you mentioned. It's really very interesting, the level of details that we can take into account well ahead, and then prevent a lot of the problems, and ultimately, aim for success. So do you like I mean, do you specialize in certain use cases, or I mean, using TPS, how do you help the companies or individuals?
So I give training on TPS because I have implemented that in the software industry. I've implemented that in multiple projects. Personally, I have implemented it. And to do that, if you look at the different levers, you know, uh, I started following the lever, which is what it says is no, you have to go and see for yourself. The last one, Genji Getsu. I actually went there. What we typically do is we read books, we try to understand, and we try to implement it. I actually went and saw there, spent time in Toyota production plant, understood what they are doing for each of these levers, how they are ensuring that their efficiency, their productivity is so very high, what exactly they are doing. So I specialize on TPS, and for any startup, any business, any IT industry, for whether it is application support, whether it is a product implementation, I can help companies to implement it. So I can give that consulting as well as handholding, so that that information, that knowledge can be passed and it can be implemented in the shortest period of time. Because I've done it myself, um, and this was called as an innovation in the software industry uh, uh, when I was implementing it in Infosys.
Yeah, very interesting. Great work, and definitely, we'll touch base for synergies. Thank you very much.
Any other question? Anything that you would like to know? Any questions from YouTube or Facebook?
Yeah, Shovan, we are still, I think people are getting this thing in with so many new information and new way and new words. That was the most interesting part for me, trust me, knowing the meaning. So, yeah. Anyone else have any questions? You can unmute and ask. YouTube, we don't have any question right now. Um, Yeah. So while the questions come in, just wanted to let you all know that we will have our Let Us Talk It Youth series this week 2 times. Tomorrow is the first one with our youngest kids. Who will be doing a webinar on the topic why playing is important, indoor and outdoor games. And on Saturday from 4 to 5 p.m. EST, we will be doing another youth topic on the outcome of if the outcome doesn't come yet, but we will be discussing on the U.S. elections and how the importance, the policies, and all of that. So please do join in and put in your points as well. And for the rest of the week, we'll have a regular professional work life based webinars next week as well. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. EST. Um, yeah, if there is not one question about this subject, if Shovan, I can ask you in general. Um, like you have been doing this. So, what's your best? What did you feel that you learned and you applied and it worked? Like wonders. Like actually it worked on any if it is be it the TPS or be it other side of the mentoring that you do. Something a success story from your side.
Yeah. So thank you for that question. Um, See, we know that more than 95% of the startups fail, right? And whether it is started by a student or it is a experienced person or an ex-CEO, it doesn't matter. We know that so many startups fail. And the reason why startups fail are plenty. Okay, so what I specialize in when I do the mentoring part is to ensure that, you know, uh, a startup is going through a failure, which means their belief system, their confidence is dropping significantly. Before failure, their confidence is very high. When they are starting, they're confident, their self belief is significantly higher. But and they are also spending a lot of time. They're spending money to build the product, build the systems, build the services, and for whatever reason, it goes through failure. And moment that happens, the belief system gets shattered completely, right? And we also lose all the money and the time that we have spent together on building the business. That also goes to the drain. So it's very, very important to ensure that that belief and confidence should never drop for an individual who is into entrepreneurship. And that's so I have taken that responsibility, that any startup which I'm entering, I'm ensuring that their belief system should never get dropped. Because if that is happening, then we are losing one entrepreneur. We are losing an opportunity for that person who will again come back and start building business. And unless we have multiple businesses, we cannot create life of significance, because we can get success while we are taking care of your family. That is called as success in my definition. But significance, living the life of significance, means I'm able to do impact more and more people, much more beyond my family members. I'm able to help more people. I'm able to do more people. I'm able to guide. I'm able to, create employment for more people. And that's called as the living the life of significance. So when we have to do that, I ensure that the startups don't go through the journey, where they have to unnecessarily go and stumble down or go through the failures. I move them from 95% to 5%. We'll figure out later whether that 5% is becoming a unicorn or not. That can still happen, but at least they have to move from 95% to 5%. And by learning about TPS and all the work that I do, I try to create things simple. I try to make things simplified, because when you try to make things complex, it is not helping anyone. We have to make it simple as possible to implement it. So most of the reason why things do not work are internal reasons. 90% of the reasons are internal reasons. 90% of the problems created are internal problems. We create those problems. So how do we fix that, or how do we eliminate that much early in the life cycle for each of the processes when you are doing your startups? And that is very, very typical and very, very key. Let me take one example. Is many times we would go and build product, and then we start running behind customers to start telling them to buy our product or services. That is, many times we have that as the first level of interaction with our customers, but there are multiple interactions that you can have even before your product is launched in the market. So this, if you do, which is your customer insighting, you do your surveys, you understand the problem, you do the solution market fit, we do a MVP or a POC, again go back to the customer, because these are all the people that we are talking to. They become the prospective customers, and tomorrow they are waiting for you to bring your product and service. Your marketing cost goes down significantly if you spend more time even with the customers, even before your product is launched in the market. So that is what I support and I help, that to ensure we reduce the time, we reduce cost, we ensure the failures can be eliminated at every stage, and we move them from 95 to 5%. And that is what I do, and I'm happy that I'm able to support startups. As of now, I'm mentoring 20 plus startups, and in the last 5.5 years, I've mentored 50 plus startups.
Wow. Wow. So the numbers do speak for themselves. Yes. I mean, pinpointing this problem, and it's so relevant. Uh, uh, so thank you for doing this, and thanks for doing what you did for the community as a whole. Uh, any other question from anyone?
Yeah, just on what Sovan has spoken just now on the startups. I mean, it is so relevant. I mean, it really shows, his empathetic thought process as well, and also the very need, for them to succeed, or at least, if not succeeding, at least to continue the journey, because success is sometimes, a journey, and then we see the kind of the successes as part of the journey itself. So yeah, that's such a important point that you mentioned, Sovan. Also, yeah, like once we are offline now, once I think the live is no longer, on today. I mean, for this session, so we can talk about another startup that we are working on. So, if you are okay now,
Sure,
we
we
can
can do that.
continue talking about now, and then it is specifically involving youth as well. So that's the reason we were thinking that from Let Us Talk It, we wanted to really uh, go in a guarded, optimistic way to see that we are doing the right things, and also the most important point that you mentioned, not to get disappointed and stop their innovation, anybody's innovation. So yeah, thanks again.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeannie.
Yeah, with that, letting everybody know, if you have any question, if you want to be a speaker, or somebody who can contribute, speaking, motivating a youth, or for professional webinars, please do email us at webinar@letustalkit.com. And Shovan, if you can stay back for a few minutes after we go offline, that would be great, on the same Zoom link. So yeah, with that, we end this session. Have a wonderful rest of the day for all those in US, and good night for those who have joined in from India. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, just Shovan, if you can, yeah.